So, hey guys, I'm really excited here. I've got Emmanuel Vasquez, and he's one of my EP in 30 Days students. And I'm just real excited to share his story with you guys. And he's been gracious enough to sit down with me and share some of his experience. So welcome. If you'd like, feel free to introduce yourself and let people know whatever it is you think that they should know about you.
What's up, everyone? My name is Emmanuel. I go by NZN, and there's a little backstory to the NZN, and there's some articles floating around about. I explain where the NZN comes from. So I'm here to talk about my journey on music so far and how I've done everything from fiddling on DAWs to taking the steps to go into formal education, video tutorial, and even then still needing other resources to even take me to the next level. And I think that's what's always going to happen with this type of career, is you're always going to have to be looking for the new resources to take you to the next level.
Right, absolutely. I mean, this is a game that continues to change as well,
yeah.
But I think it's very important that people understand if they learn the fundamentals, then all those little details don't really matter as much. When you learn kind of a mental process in a process, the tools may change, obviously.
Yeah.
And you need to kind of keep up on that. But the essentials behind music making don't really change as quickly.
And it's funny you say you'll see that one of my favorite things to do is to go through different genres.
Right.
And you take a look, they're all using atmospheric elements. They're all using a bass line. They're all using the drums. They're all using top line elements. So it's when you're learning about music, you see the recurring things. And like you said, when you set the foundation, right, then you can start being an artist.
Yeah, absolutely. So, so what were things like for you before you joined the course? I'm not sure how long you've known me, if this is your first introduction to me, or if you've read some of my resources or watched my videos. But where were you at, kind of?
Okay, so I can definitely take you through that. So in 2014 in December is when I graduated from Icon Collective in Burbank. And it's the same school that Slander went to, Nightmare went to, Jaws went to, Mac J,
nice,
just to name a few. Yeah. And so I went into that school super green. It was really getting into what a DAW is and what it stood for, and how to set up sends, and you're bussing and why are you bussing, and then compression and what's going on. So it's I was so the best way I could explain when I was going to school, I just literally felt like a child learning a language. And it's every day was new information, just new information.
Kind of a sense of overwhelm a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And that was I was in the 9-month program for that. And so when I finished in December, definitely I had some skills of finishing music and getting things going. But since I have a DJ background, I knew the music I was working on was not club quality.
Okay.
And so I'm such a big proponent of providing quality, whether in anything that you do,
right,
however, you present yourself, whenever you're involving somebody else, please present quality.
So would you say that the ideas were there, but you weren't efficiently feeling comfortable with your results?
Exactly. If I ever did finish a song, I never felt comfortable that I could load up the software again. I use Ableton.
Right.
Yeah. And it was always a new super discovery, and it wasn't really a rhythm of completing music.
Right, kind of the dominoes would fall in your discoveries, and the new song would almost be, you'd have to set those up all over again. And it almost felt like you were learning a new process every time instead of having something that you can go back to and build on. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that's really accurate. And like, I think what happens with like music production, with anyone who's like familiar, there's thousands of decisions that go into making a song, whether it's coming from your ADSR envelopes, whether you're using like a saw for your LFO versus a sine wave, and
absolutely
of an amplitude. It's like it's every single time over making music, you want to learn a new technique, and so it's almost like you can only focus on one technique per song, and that's why these careers take so long, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And my goal is to, try to speed up that process for people. Yeah. Try to kind of put people on a creative steroids, if you will, process. And that doesn't mean that the work doesn't need to happen. But what it means is that however long it takes you to learn this process, it will be something that you'll always have in your toolbox to go back to again and again.
Yeah.
So, did you have any hesitations about joining this course? Did you go through a process of kind of being on the fence, or how did you approach this?
So I remember my whole emotions going through this because I was in like so after I finished Icon and like I wasn't like very comfortable with everything. A year I literally resigned. I used to be an electrical engineer for a Fortune 500 company, and I resigned to learn music full time. So I literally would wake up 7 a.m. and would work till 5 p.m. And many times it would carry over into 8 p.m. So there was many days I was putting in 13-hour days and 16-hour days. And so there was a time where after a while, the music started to sound good.
Right.
And so I ended up going to a conference in Vegas. It was the EDM Biz Conference. And I took a snippet of a track I made, and I showed it to like the music director of SiriusXM. And he goes, "This is hot. Send it to me, and we'll get it on SiriusXM." I'm like, "What?"
Right.
That's
okay.
incredible. But I only had a 30-second clip. I didn't have a track.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so that's where all my emotions of like were. I'm like, oh my gosh, you actually know how to produce music now. You just don't have any finished music.
Right.
And so after like that meeting, I would like work on a track, and I kept starting ideas, and I did that for like basically the whole summer, where it was like I came to a point where I'm like, you have such a bad habit of not finishing music. And so when and then I saw your ad come up on I think it was on YouTube. I saw two things come up, and I think what also helped is like is that I saw multiple times your ad come up, and I think I was in different stages of my mind of where I saw the ads. But like the first one was like the 10 things every producer should know.
Oh yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I think that was a free download.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely I was like and so I completely related to the 10 things you were talking about. And then later I also saw your ad of like complete an EP in 30 days. So I pull up the ad, and I'm just going through it. I'm like, this is what I need. This is literally what I need. And so I'm married, happily married.
Wonderful.
So I was talking to my wife about the course. I'm like, because it was big. It was a big financial investment to step away from such a steady salary with engineering.
Right. Absolutely.
That, we have to consider all expenses, and so and she's such a big support that and I think it works because I'm not over here just like filling up my studio with gear or unnecessary expenses. So
that's smart.
Yeah. So we talked about like the importance of what this course was going to do for the career, and so we both approved it and signed off, and that's how like. So when I saw your ad, I was like ecstatic. It's like
that's great to hear.
Yeah, I was like, this is what I needed, and I think it was because of like all the groundwork that I've laid up of like getting like excited to learn how to produce, and then get excited that someone wants to premiere my music, but not to have finished music. And then I went through the journey of continuing to start ideas without finishing them, or like, I don't know how to finish music. Right.
You have the ideas, you have some of the chops down, but you don't have the song finishing process that's happening. And I'll tell you a little background. The reason that this course is a 30-day course, I'd been thinking about this for, before I did it, for about a year, maybe even a little more. And the idea was, well, first off, I know that a lot of producers are starting with nothing, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of producers don't have a whole lot of money to work with. And I thought, well, Ableton gives a free trial for 30 days on their software. And I was thinking, well, what if I was able to not only help people that already have Ableton, but what if I made a course that would also help people that have never used Ableton before and didn't even know if they wanted to make the investment? And by the time they knew whether they wanted to make the investment, they would actually have some finished songs, regardless of whether they did that. Obviously, there's an investment into my course, but they don't have to make the full investment of buying Ableton Suite and then later realizing that for some reason they don't like it or it's not working for them or whatever. So I figure, if someone wants to go the training first, and starting, like I said, whether you start with your background of having some experience or someone that has no experience at all. So I figured if I could get someone to finish a couple songs, at least 2 songs in 30 days without having to buy any software, I thought that would be a real benefit for people. Yeah. So that's kind of where it all began.
That's cool.
So what kind of breakthroughs happened for you? I mean, you had some knowledge under your belt, but now you take a course that promises that you're going to finish some songs, and in your past you hadn't been finishing songs. So where does the breakthrough kind of happen for you? What have you been able to develop from taking this course that you don't think you had before?
One thing that completely keeps standing out is the identification of bad habits, and how I knew, like, when I first started, I have like a very like ambitious personality, and so I remember you're like, this course is to get you to finish 2 to 3 songs, and I emailed you. I'm like, I want to finish 12 songs.
Yeah, I think I remember that too, and I'm like, hey, hold your horses now.
I was like, that's cool, but let's get things going first, right?
Yeah, let's get the process down first.
And so that's like right out of the get-go, I started to see like, what else am I doing that I'm like sabotaging myself from finishing music?
Right.
And so that was like, that's what was like one of the big takeaways was like, I love how you had your days planned out, and how you couldn't access the new material until like the day were completed. And
well, there's something to that, right?
Yeah.
I don't let people binge, because binging doesn't teach you.
Yes, exactly.
It doesn't teach you. You have to put in the work of every step of the process, and understand that, because the next lesson is always going to build on the work, not the lesson, the work you did is going to teach you what you need to know to be prepared for the next step.
Yeah. I mean, I could literally go through like the whole 30 days of like how every single day meant something, where like I remember where I got ecstatic because there's a part in your course where you lay down your drums and your bass, and I'm like, oh man, this is awesome. And then like I sent you like the SoundCloud private upload, and then I remember I got discouraged on the second one. I'm like, hey Jason, like my second one's not sounding good, like and then it's like, and I think those are the type of emotions that goes through like finishing music.
Absolutely. These are those kind of what I would call a breakdown, right?
Yes.
Is the process of untangling the bad habits that have kept you from finishing songs, right?
That's exactly.
These are the natural, uncomfortable parts of the process that we normally don't want to push through, because we believe that if at any stage of the process our art isn't the absolute best it can be, that it's not worth carrying forward.
Yes.
Which is not true at all.
Yeah.
Most great songs start with very humble beginnings, which I think in one way or another was what I probably replied to you with when you said you were struggling with that second song.
Yeah, your reply was something along the lines of, it's okay, get it to a point where it sounds good, it doesn't have to be great, and let's move forward with it.
Right.
Oh, okay. I was like, I said, I think I can do good with what I have right now. Let's move forward with good.
And how did that turn out in the end? Like were you able to see it transforming kind of in front of your eyes day by day?
Yeah, it was. I think you also need. It was cool to get to first start off with something I was excited about, and then it was also cool to immediately follow it with something I was not excited about, because it really got me to identify like, well, what did I do with that one, and what did I do with this one, and it started to like expose itself on like some of my choices I was making, some of the habits I was in. And so it was good to just muscle through something that, like, I don't know, it was, and I think that's part of like the whole part of the course is it's okay to finish music you're not 100% excited about, and not everything has to be released, but you can learn from every finished track.
Yeah, you can learn from every finished track, and the way that I look at it as well is, isn't it better that you finish 10 songs and you're happy with 6 of them, right?
Yeah.
But you've also got those other 4 songs that at some point something's going to click and you're going to realize what is needed to make those other 4 songs sound great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Otherwise, you would still be stuck on song 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And never learning from the rest of your 10-song process.
Mm-hmm.
What you really need to know to make that song better. So you get stuck in a rut of trying to finish this one thing. So sometimes it's process. Sometimes it's passion, but most of the time it's process.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great to hear. And overall, since you've taken the course, first off, how long ago was it that you took the course?
I took it around August or September of last year.
Right. Okay. And
so let me 2016 August or
that would have been July. You would have finished in August.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. And from that time, so that's about 7-8 months, something like that. So great. What have you been able to finish since then?
So the in terms of music or career-wise or both?
Tell me whatever you think is pertinent.
Okay, so the biggest takeaway, not I shouldn't say the word biggest. One of the takeaways that really stuck with me was like, I think it was near your last module, and you said, "Okay, guys, you need to release this stuff." He's like, you said in the video, it's cool to work on music, that's fun, but if you only artists share their work. And I'm like, oh, I need to share.
Right.
And so then, like, I mean, that's why, like, this whole music thing is such a journey. Because then I'm like, oh man, I need to, like, release this music. Because now I had finished music.
Right. Well, let me kind of back up just a bit, but I think you're on the right path completely, is that sharing your music is what artists do. Yeah. Letting go of your own opinion of your music is what artists do. See, once it's finished, your passion needs to go to the next thing, right? Mm-hmm. You can't hold a judgment on this and either think it's so good that you're afraid to make the next song, or so bad that you're afraid that you've lost something. You get on with it, and by sharing it, you get real feedback from real people, right? So the way I look at it is, your art, once you've finished it, it's no longer yours. You might be sick of hearing that song after working on it. I mean, many artists are sick of their album before they even go on tour, right?
Yeah.
Because the listener hears it for the first time. But they've been through the process. They've been through all the failures. They've been through all the headbutting, right? And all these things. So, right, they no longer have the ability to think objectively about their own art, right?
No. And that's one of the things that I use, like, while producing, is like, try to keep playing your song for enjoyment at a minimum while you're producing the song, because every time you listen to it, your ability to be objective decreases each time you're, like,
right,
pleasurably listening to it.
That's why it's important to try to, I mean, now look, some songs do take longer than others, but it's important to kind of get on with it, because what can happen is, if you take too long on a song, the things that excite you transform, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that song's going to sound 3-4 months behind you, to you, not to a listener. So by getting yourself through that process, instead of waiting for inspiration, because once again, inspiration is going to change almost every time you come back to it, right? So sometimes you got to sit down and do the work in order to really reap the rewards. And I find that doing the work creates an inspiration in and of itself. Mm-hmm. And especially when you get to find that this song came out differently than you would have expected in an exciting way, right? By just trusting the process, instead of you're on day 3 of, let's say, a 7-day process of finishing a song, let's say. You know, at day 3, you have no idea what day 7 holds. So you can't really judge. You can't really judge at day 3. You know, if your emotions are down, that's a normal part of the process. In fact, being down is usually the precursor to your greatest moments. Having a funk, it's that coming out of the funk that typically drives you to another level. Yeah. And without that work ethic, if you're just waiting to feel good before you get started, you never find that point. You never make that breakthrough.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that's great. And you've finished a number of songs now?
Yeah, I think I've finished around, like, 14.
14 songs.
Yeah. It's so, I don't know, it's after going through your method, I just really I just know what a finished song sounds like, and like the elements that go into keep it interesting, keep it theme, right? The character of the song, the emotion of the song. So, like, the confidence in, like, finishing music is, like, it's actually super exciting to just be able to like open up Ableton and just start working on a song and just knowing that you're going to be able to finish it. It's just such an amazing feeling to know you're going to have a finished song. I don't know, it's...
That's fantastic to hear. It's really fantastic to hear. Now, a lot of people fear that if they're taught a process, that it's going to take away them sounding like them. Did you feel at any time in this process that you were losing yourself, or were you able to feel yourself inside the process and be your original, authentic self through this process?
I was able to really be myself, and I think I would have to draw probably on like my DJ experience of where a lot of DJing is playing a lot of the same music that's popular. Sure. But even if you're playing a lot of the same popular music, you're still able to present yourself, like the timing, the flow of the night. And so I definitely saw...
In other words, there's rules to DJing, but you're still able to be unique within those boundaries.
Exactly. And I saw that during the whole process of like, okay, it's time to lay down your top line. Well, it's completely my decision as an artist and as a producer to choose, like, am I going to use tambourines, shakers? What type of hi-hat am I going to use? And it's like... Yeah,
or home recordings or anything, right.
Yeah, am I using MIDI triggering? Am I using audio samples? Am I tweaking the samples? So it's like, I never once lost myself in the process. And
so you still felt the freedom through, okay.
And I think that's where like the background comes from, knowing of like, hey, you can make a song that never has a bass line, but your song should probably have a bass line.
In most cases, you're right. Yeah. In most cases, you're right. Everyone, at some point, there's someone who breaks the rules successfully. Prince broke the rules with the bass line, and he took the bass out of When Doves Cry, and it hit number one, and no one realized there was no bass in it. Go back and listen to it. No bass in the song.
Oh, really?
No bass in the song. There was bass, but he pulled it out just to be tricky, and it made the song kind of actually open up because the drums sound bigger and stuff. But yeah, go back and listen to it. No. So rules can certainly be broken, but you have to understand why you're breaking the rules before you go through that process. Yeah. Absolutely. So what do you think makes this course different than some of the other technical training that you've had?
One thing right off the back logistically is, and we talked about earlier, was that I could not access the other days until that day was completed. So right off the bat, it was, you almost had like a choke on the system of like how much water you're letting go through the stream.
Each day, right.
Yeah, so that was super cool. Where it made it very. It's funny because like when you first start, you're like, well, I want to access everything, and then as you're going through it, you start to understand why there's a process of, and it just makes it more digestible. So like later in the course, you're actually able to focus on that day, and you're not very concerned about, well, what's going to happen 3 days from now? You're able to digest the information for the day.
Did you find the interaction in the course, both in the private group and through email? Obviously, you send in your homework every day of doing. That's part of the course. Is I personally go through every student's homework. Do you feel that you got the support that you needed when you needed it?
Definitely. Like once again, when we were mentioning earlier in this session about talking about the emotions of like being excited about the first track and then being upset, not upset, but not being enthralled about the second track, and how I literally wrote out to you like what was going through my mind what I was feeling, and you gave me like an email for me to address the feelings I was going through for that day. It was very, to me, it wasn't a broadcasted message.
Oh, sure, right. No, it's very personal. I encourage people to broadcast some of their challenges in the group because a lot of people can get a lot out of it. But there's also a lot of times where someone wants to come to me privately with specific things, that wouldn't really work as well in a group dynamic anyway. So I try to be there for both.
Yeah.
100%. Like when I do these launches, that's why I have to limit to 100 people because, when I do these launches, I don't do a whole lot of sleeping. I'm very much 100% in the course, like every student is.
Yeah.
I gotta, and obviously there's people in many different time zones. I still get my sleep, but I gotta check, and respond to people, a number of times a day and make sure that everyone's taken care of, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm glad that you felt taken care of, and I've gotten that feedback from many of my students, and I care about that quite a bit. I really come from the background of I took longer than most people to get good at this, right? But I've gained a lot of experience through all the failures and through all the challenges that, and also before I started doing these trainings, I was sitting down one-on-one with people back since 1999, teaching people all kinds of different DAWs. Ableton came later actually. But I had to figure out, how to teach this person what they needed to know within a 3-hour period, right?
Yeah.
And by doing that for years, I really got to not only relate to these people with my own struggles, but find new struggles that a lot of students were having that were relatable, and so I really keep those things in mind as I try to build a process or a course, that can help as many people as possible. Obviously, no course is for everybody, but I really try to put as many people into the paradigm as possible.
Yeah, definitely.
That's fantastic. Let's see here. So what would you have to say to other people that, to some people this is a big investment, right? And it might have been a big investment to you as well. What would you say to people that are on the fence? Who do you think would benefit from this course? Who might be on the fence right now?
The people who would benefit are the people who will not give up. The people who are committed to going after the things that they truly care about. The people who are aware that this is a very long journey, and it's a journey you never stop learning. And I think it's this is a perfect course for like lifetime committed learners. It's like if you consider yourself someone who loves to push yourself and to continue to better yourself, this is the perfect course for you.
Wonderful. And how much progress do you think that you made, not in how much you finished, but in how much you learned? How long do you think it might have taken you to kind of get to the point that you're at if you hadn't taken the course?
It's fun.
I mean, obviously it's hard to say,
Yeah.
but do you feel that those 30 days impacted you obviously more than 30 days worth of experience?
It's funny you say that because literally when I was talking about this course with Elena, that's my wife, and I was talking to her about this course, I said, okay, this course is to get you to finish music. That's the whole driving point. I'm like, I can learn how to finish music, and then I'm like, but I haven't learned how to do it yet. So how long do I know it's going to take before I actually learn? Whereas, like, here's the unknown, and I have the experience of, like, I have not been finishing music for the past year and a half, right?
And you've been producing for a while as well, yeah?
Yeah, and so it's like, here's, like, continuing to the unknown. Not just unknown, you also have, it's the unknown with the known that you don't know how to finish music. But
Sure.
Here's a definitive guide of 30 days, you get an EP. It's like, those are no-brainer. It's like, I don't know how to finish music. That's why I'm looking at this course.
It's so great to hear that transformation happened for you in those 30 days, you know, which is obviously the absolute goal, you know, of not just someone finishing a couple songs in 30 days, but walking away with something that they can keep with them for a lifetime, keep coming back to it, and knowing that in the future they will have a process and a confidence that they can sit down in front of a blank screen without fear.
Yeah.
Emmanuel, thank you so much for taking the time with myself and sharing this with the community. I really appreciate it. I know, obviously it takes time out of your schedule, and, I kind of bombard you with a few questions that may be uncomfortable. So it's really been a pleasure having you, and thanks so much for offering to do this as well.
Of course. When I saw that email come through, I was ecstatic to, like, and it's one thing that I've been telling people of, like, because since I went to a production school, people are like, hey, Emmanuel, like, your career's taken off, and it's like, and I have to attribute it to finished music. Like, if you don't have a product, how are you gonna be able to get off the ground?
Absolutely. Wonderful. Thanks again so much.
Do you mind if we take a picture for my Snapchat?
Well, we can absolutely take a picture for your Snapchat.
All right, there we go. Cool.
Nice one. Take care of yourself.